Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday. It has been positive week here at HSHQ, and what a way to end positive week with one of our most special guests. Here we go. Don't say we don't do nice things for you. It's casual Friday here at Highbury Squad, and the whole family is back together again. Welcome back, Miss PG. Amanda, hello.
Hello, everybody. Oh, it's nice to be back.
And also joining me is my brother from another podcast, Mother, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell.
Good to be back. I must say, I've missed you all. And I'm really looking forward to today.
And they've missed you too. And our very special guest, it's a trip down memory lane today. As you know, we have been celebrating the Arsenal heroes of 1971. And there's no better person to have on to talk about the legacy of this wonderful team, the daughter of Arsenal legend, Geordie Armstrong. Welcome to the show, Jill Armstrong.
Hey.
Welcome, Jill. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. I'm looking forward to it. It'd be lovely to sit and chat for an hour with you three, because I do watch the podcast. I love it. It's very positive and just wonderful to share stories of Dad, you know.
I love it. I want to, before we get stuck into the football side of things, I want to go back to the very beginning, because you've shared some wonderful photographs with us. And, you know, kind of growing up and having a dad who plays football. I mean, I don't know what I would have done with myself if my dad was a footballer. So just want you to take us back to kind of moments like this, Jill, and when you realized, you know, what your dad did for a living and, you know, and what it meant, you know, to have a dad who played for the Arsenal.
It's really strange because it's very difficult to kind of like say, when did you realize? I mean, your life is normal. So your dad, I mean, my dad was the most, you know, he was the most normal father, even though he was, you know, he'd get stopped in the street. I remember as kids, we'd be going into, when we lived in Winchmore Hill, we'd get stopped and they'd be asking for his autograph or whatever, but it just became your normal life. When we would go up to my grandmother's in Newcastle, he would get a knock on the door and it'd be like the kids going, "Geordie, come out and have a kick around." And he'd go out and play football with them, you know, because he was like a local hero. I used to get really annoyed. I'm like, "Oh, Dad," you know, because he had time for everyone. But as far as, you know, knowing about him being a footballer, he never, ever talked about himself. I'll be honest with you, I grew up, yeah, I knew he was a good player, but I didn't realise he always put himself average. He was all right. You know, I'm okay. He never, ever bigged himself up over anything, you know. Kevin would probably know that. Yeah. I mean, I remember Omar Rizzo, when we did the book signing with Dave Seeger, he said, "I didn't even know what Geordie had done. He'd been training me for years with the reserves." He said he never talked about it, you know. But these photos were often done for Arsenal Programme or Shoot magazine. So we were kind of doing that sort of thing. Again, it becomes a bit normal. I was quite shy as a child. You know, there's a couple of people on Twitter who knew me from school in St. Monica's. I was kind of the quiet child. It was, I don't know, maybe a bit overwhelming having a dad that everybody, you know, you can imagine he dropped us off at school and all the kids running up trying to get his autograph. You know, part of you, it was a normal, but part of you, it was, you know, I don't know. It's not always like you get your head around it. You just kind of accept it. I mean, he opened our school fete one year. That was really odd.
I can imagine.
I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean, but there was always this sense of pride with him, that you had love for him. He always had time for everyone. You know, I remember when he died, my school friends would ring me and say, "I always remember your dad would be the person that wouldn't let me bicycle back home. He'd stick the bike in the car and drop me home in the car." He was always good to everyone. You know, he never judged anybody by what they had or what they'd done or who they were. He treated everyone exactly the same. And I never in my entire life knew him ever turn down an autograph. As a kid, we would be going, for God's sake, Dad, hurry up. No. And we'd, Dad, come on, Dad, you know, no. And he would not, until the last person was, you know, gone.
Satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would.
So lovely.
Him. That's him. Yeah.
And you know what, Kevin, I'm telling you, this sounds so ridiculous. People that never met him or know him think, oh, Jesus, she's harping on again. Who is this man? He's too good to be true. But that was Dad, you know. It's so hard to even find anything negative about him.
Brilliant.
That embodied that actually embodied the Arsenal.
Yeah.
That was the Arsenal class.
Yeah.
That was the Arsenal class.
Yeah.
The players were approachable.
Yeah. He was so proud as well of the Arsenal, as you know. I mean, when we were growing up and we went to the club, we as his family were representing the Arsenal. Yeah. We never wore jeans. We couldn't look untidy. Even I've actually instilled that in my children now, because it was part of the respect. And, you know, we all had to carry that with us, which we do. We would never address Arsenal as Arsenal. It would always be the Arsenal.
The Arsenal,
yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I never post anything on Twitter without saying the Arsenal. I try to configure my sentences so it works out for it to make sense for it to say the Arsenal. Kev, you know, listening to Jill talk about her dad, and you know, is that where you seeing and meeting people like her dad? Where, because you're great with fans, you'll stop for everybody, you know, and that was part of the Arsenal way for sure. Did you see that yourself and in him too?
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing when Jill talks. The amount of things that keep, you know, stuff that you've forgotten. It comes flooding through my mind because it's always your peers and the people who done it before who paved the way for the next generations. So and don't forget, there were South London lads ahead of me. The you know, Rocky, Mickey Thomas, Paul Davies, as we called him, Pops, was the older lads from South London. You had Tony Adams and Martin Hayes and Noel Quinn and Merson and all that lot. But who preceded them was your David O'Leary's and your Pat Rice's and all that. And who was part of that was Geordie Armstrong and Frank McClintock. These are the guys who paved the way. And the way they were, I was so blessed having Pat Rice as a coach, having Geordie Armstrong as a coach, having George Graham as the manager. That's the thread of the Arsenal straight through there, and how they were and how they conducted themselves. These things that shape you. You know, like a jigsaw, you have pieces. Yeah. And when you start putting it together, it starts making a picture. That's what the Arsenal was about. As a fan, it's different. I've stood on the terraces, but once you get on the inside, it's so much more classy and different, honestly. It is so brilliant.
Yeah, love it.
I mean, I don't know. It's just it's like part of you. It's like in your blood. You know. It's you know, we grew up. My dad just absolutely loved the Arsenal. You know, like Kev does. You know, it's hard to explain. It's like you've got it inside you. You see it with Wrighty. You see it with so many people, don't you? Lee Dixon, everybody. You know, this passion that they have inside of them. For the Arsenal, it's like you get annoyed, you get frustrated with them, you get angry with them, but that love is there, isn't it? You know, it's and I know my dad, you know, even when he moved away from Arsenal, even when we were in Kuwait, he would be checking Arsenal scores. You know, it would always be Arsenal. You know, you know, it never ever went away. You know, and then when George obviously asked him to come back as reserve team manager, you know, obviously he jumped at the chance.
Jill, what was it like as a child going to Arsenal as a fan? Because obviously you're a fan. Your dad was. Did you watch your dad much play live?
Near our family.
What did you say? Sorry.
Nobody wanted to sit near us. We had season tickets. You know, like obviously we would go and watch my dad. We had like a Saturday ritual where we would like Dad would drop us off. We would go for something to eat. Then we would go to the club. We would wait. And I used to sit on that seat inside Marble Halls, you know. You could
the bench, like the bench.
The fans coming.
Yeah. You'd have watched me.
And the horses, you know, the whole atmosphere, you know, Obviously, my experience was slightly different. Obviously, the love was still the same, but obviously slightly different. And then we would go to our seats and we would sit with my mum and my brother. And sometimes my aunt would come. Now, the funniest thing of all is when somebody would call my dad, who was saying, my mum would start having a go. Don't you call my
Oh, I love it.
brother used to get annoyed. I remember he even kicked somebody once. He's crying his out. My mum is saying, don't upset my son. And my auntie, who's sitting with us, is doing that.
Oh, brilliant.
By no one, because we were always protective of Dad. I mean, don't get me wrong, it didn't happen very often. But
No.
I think in the end, people got to know, oh, yeah, this is one of my favourite pictures, actually, when Dad got Football of the Year. A lovely picture with Mum.
Beautiful photo.
Yeah.
She looks lovely.
Yeah, she was in lavender, I think it was.
It's a very cool picture.
I love Marge already. We should get Marge on the show.
Well,
I'm telling you, the fact that she had a go at everyone that was having a go at her husband, I love it.
This is a picture, I'll tell you.
What's happening here, Kev?
Right, this is obviously Geordie's right in front. To the left of that is the youth development officer, who was an absolutely beautiful man, Terry Murphy. Pat Rice and his wife are there. There's Bobby Armour, which is the guy on the right hand side. Lovely people with their wives and girlfriends, and this brings back so many memories because I came through all of these guys. I came up through the ranks. Amazing photo.
And you were probably at that Christmas party, weren't you?
Yeah, I was at that Christmas party.
The last Christmas party I went to, somebody was ill, and I ended up sitting with Arsene in between Dad and Arsene. It was, lovely. And he was talking about Japan, and Dad was talking about, obviously great people. I mean, everybody that's been part of the club, you will have that kind of, connection, don't you? It's lovely.
Of course. Geordie was as you said, such an Arsenal man, Jill.
Yeah.
That when he first came in, we as young players, we were a bit in awe of him because George Graham was part of that team, but he was manager. Pat Rice, we knew how Pat Rice was, but Geordie Armstrong was like a thing of legend. So when he actually came in as the reserve manager, I remember the first day, everyone was like quiet as a mouse. Normally you couldn't shut us up, but everyone was just quiet. And he was telling us stories about Kuwait and all this. And he just said, he said, you do realize you're playing for the Arsenal. And he says, it's my job to get you in the first team, boys. So this is what we're going to do. And he gave us a hell day.
I bet,
Honestly, he gave us a hell day. But he gave us a hell day because he wanted to test the character of us. He was testing our character to see if you got it, not only up here, but do you have it in here?
Yeah, definitely.
And he said to us after, I'll give you a tough day today, boys. We said, yeah. We're like, you did.
I know.
He said, you guys have got the character to make the first team.
He was so fit, It was
yes.
He was the same weight virtually when he died to what he was when he was.
Wow.
When he played.
Wow, God.
So it's funny because, even when he was, they didn't have a lot of time off. In the summer, if he had, amount of weeks, he was either gardening, he was running, he was so fit. I remember Arsene said after Dad died, he said, I honestly think he was too fit. I've never known a man like him. And even Liam Brady, obviously his good friend, he actually said to me fairly recently, he said, you know what, your dad was an athlete in his 50s, and you think there's not many people you can say that about, can you really? I mean,
very true.
He was just, and he was a winner. That was at home. That was his birthday party. What a night that was.
Look at the picture. Look at that.
I know. They're just great people. And that's and that was Dad's birthday. Obviously, Liam. I mean, Liam's somebody that we grew up with, Liam, we think the world of him. And he's been wonderful to our family as well since Dad died, because he was very close to Dad. I mean, I grew up and he was next door. He lived next door to us with Will Frostron. I don't know if you remember Wilf, yeah?
Yeah, what played at Watford, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wilf, he was, do you know, they were so funny. They lived next door, they were in Diggs. And we used to go around there because the woman who looked after them became like a grandmother to us. You know, she was a really wonderful woman. And they would be watching Top of the Pops and they'd be singing. Now, me and my brother were quite young then. And they'd be banging and singing. And she'd come in, what's going on? And then nothing. But they had us in we were laughing all the time. That's how I remember my childhood, you know, with people. I mean, the sad thing is I don't remember the double years as well because, you know, because I was, you know, I was 4. You know, I don't.
Too young, maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously the players I do. I mean, Frank is what a funny guy. He has me in fits all the time. He's got the best humour going, you know. He's just wonderful. You know, and such a lovely man. He speaks regularly to my mum. Actually, they speak.
Lovely.
You know, because obviously, you know, Frank lost his wife not so long ago, and you know, they've got that connection, and yeah, they're all great. Bob's a dear man, and his wife Megs, and Pat, you know, lovely, and Betty, you know, that they're such great people, you know, and it's so funny because unless you've actually been in the company, well, obviously that's not going to happen now because Dad's not there, but when they were all together, I think it was Michael Watson. Do you remember they did that charity
at the club?
Yeah.
I walked him on the pitch.
Did you?
Oh,
did
you?
Yeah, I walked him on the pitch. Yeah.
What amazing event that was, wasn't it? And
yeah, it was brilliant.
And I remember, I think the double team had got together, hadn't they, for that occasion? Yeah. And afterwards, we were in the manager's office, and it was the banter between them. It was just unbelievable. I can't even explain it. I was just literally, I didn't want to leave. I just enjoyed being around them because they were all happy. They had this connection. And like Bob Wilson said, when Dad died, you know, part of the puzzle had gone, you know, that piece was missing because obviously the connection they all had and the love for each other. I mean, you know, Dad, I mean, when he was with them, he'd light up. You know, they were just such a special team. Not for always what they achieved. It was also for they were friends. I mean, like Dad says, I don't know if you saw that YouTube thing that they do, 98 Chasers, where it was based, they talked about just before they did the double in 98, they were talking about obviously the possibility that they won't be the only ones to have done the double and how did they feel about it, blah, blah. And, you know, like Dad was saying on it, you know, we lived all within a certain radius and we bumped into each other all the time. And I remember after games, we would go into a place, I think it was Il Faro. It was an Italian restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Is that in Winchmore, North in Winchmore Hill? Il Faro, yeah.
We used to go there all the time. And we would go on a Saturday after a game and it would be like, hi. All the players were there, you know. So we always seemed to be around, you know, quite, you know, like always sort of bumping into each other, really strongly connected.
Jill, is that where because I was in Winchmore Hill a lot at the beginning of the 90s because that's where my ex-husband was from, and we used to see like Frank McClintock and stuff. So that's where you all lived, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So excuse me. Yeah,
that's a great photo. Look at that.
I went to St Monica's in Southgate. I went to that school. Yeah, I mean, we had a really good, like, it was such a massive shock when we left and we moved to Leicester.
Yeah, a bit different.
You know, I remember, did Alan Ball, because there's this great picture, Kev sent this is a fantastic picture. He lived in Berkshire Gardens, I think, at one point, in Palmer's Green as well. It was amazing.
Yeah.
How
they all kind of lived. I know Frank backed up on our garden and was in quite a small radius. I think they had to live quite more local then. I don't know. I'm only guessing, but or you know they.
Well, it made sense, didn't it? Where the training ground was. Yeah.
That picture you've got with the bus.
Yes.
I remember those. They were like is it Pullman buses or some kind of like the trains? They were really so elite. I mean, we used to go and wave them off, and you couldn't believe what they used to travel on these buses. They had everything on it. Something that they didn't. I don't think you saw so much of in the 70s. You know, it was quite luxurious.
Jill, sorry, go on.
Yeah, and I think like that's like what Bob always says. You know, they always travelled first class. Everything was done the right way because they were the Arsenal. You know, and it had so much class about it. You know, it's.
Can I add to that? Can I add to that? Just to let people know. So when I was coming through, one of the big pulls was to obviously travel with the first team. Because when you travel with the first team, as Jill says, everything's first class. You get a meal on the bus. You know, no, seriously, you get a meal on the bus. You get 3-course meal on the bus, etc. And as a kid, normally it's like, you know, you put an order into for the fish and chips or something back then, and you get your fish and chips on the bus and you eat that. But to get a 3-course meal service, you got like, you know, all your places all done with all the cutlery. It was like, what? I need to get on that bus. Not only do I need to play, I need to get on that bus. So to get on the bus and have your starter, have your main, have your afters, and you know, have your drinks, etc. It was the Arsenal way, and believe you me, many other clubs never done it that way.
No, they didn't.
Never done it that way.
Yeah, I think that's what Dad said when he moved from Arsenal. He realised the difference. You know, it wasn't that they just had something, that edge on it, didn't they? It was. I always remember everything. I mean, you know, I remember we used to have Christmas parties for the children, and always one of the players would dress up as Father Christmas, and it's a present. And I was terrified. I would never go up there.
Jill,
yeah.
Well, 2 things. First of all, as I was going to say, that form is temporary and class is permanent, and that's what we always say about the Arsenal. Yeah, but what do you remember about the double year?
Double year. I don't remember a lot, to be honest. I was 4. You know, again, you know, your life was normal as your dad was footballer. I remember my brother. I think there was more interviews going on TV, and I know that we had that interview before a game with Brian Moore. You know, they used to do that day before the double, before the FA Cup, wasn't it? You know what they?
Do all the recordings of the families and everything.
Yeah. I remember doing that, and I've actually put that a little clip of that on Twitter before. And I remember that it was all very overwhelming. But we were kept quiet. We didn't go to any of the games. My mum went. I mean, the famous story, actually, jumping back, is White Hart Lane. On the way, you know, to White Hart Lane, my mum got a lift, I think, with Barbara McClintock and my granddad. They got out and they got caught in the crowds. This was on their way in, and the team bus was coming. Now, luckily, my dad saw my mum, so he said, "Stop the bus." So they got my mum and Barbara on the team bus, which was unheard of in those days, because Bertie, me,
weren't having it yet.
But what had actually happened then was they'd lost my granddad, and my mum,
oh my God,
worried. She's like, "Where's my dad?" So Dad was at the back of the bus with Frank, and they opened the thing and they shouted to the supporters, "We need to find the father-in-law." And this is no word lie. They passed him over their heads.
No way.
That is hilarious.
A video of that. How amazing. I think it's one of the best stories I've ever heard. And apparently Bertie shouting at the front, from the front, "What's going on down there?" They're like,
"Oh no,
nothing."
So he's coming in at the back door, Jill. The back door. Yeah. He's coming through the back.
What's it like, an emergency exit or whatever?
Yeah, it's an emergency door.
But that is a God's honest truth. That is happened. And my mum said that was the highlight of my grandfather's life. You know,
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
You know, Geordie was my dad's favourite player, regardless of you being on tonight. growing up, that's all we heard. Him, McClintock, Graham, Brady. Obviously, I came in towards Brady's end. But honestly, I honestly thought your dad's name was Geordie, because obviously growing up, I'm a young kid, aren't I?
Yeah.
And I said, that's a funny name, isn't it? Geordie.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of stuck, I guess. I mean, they all had nicknames, didn't they? This was at our home in, I think, Winchmore Hill, yeah.
That's my favorite picture that you sent. Kev and I were like talking about just the ambience of it all, Jill. It's just brilliant. What's happening here?
Well, you can see his cap, which I've got here. He had 5 under-23 caps. That one he put on somewhere and it's singed. That was typical Dad, he didn't kind of like. Do you know what? If he saw this now, he'd go nuts. He's like, what the bloody hell you got all that up for? He wasn't fussy or wanted anything like that. But anyway, he's got his cap up there. He's also got the Fairs Cup. That's really strange trophy. It's just little, bit strange. And then he's got FA Cup and League thing up there. They're actually in the Emirates Museum.
Oh wow, very cool.
And also his silver cannon. He got that for the 500 appearances. He was the first ever player to hit that. But what was interesting is, in all of the games, he played 621, I think, wasn't it?
That's insane. Yeah. I mean, it's insane.
He started 606.
Wow.
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 And did he start every game in the same position, or did he ever play out of position?
No, Arteta wasn't manager then. Come on.
No, but the thing is, Geordie could play either wing, and it wasn't really the thing then. But because he was such a good crosser of the ball, Geordie could switch wings and cross great with either foot.
That's fantastic.
And even when I was there and he'd retired, my God, he's crossing. Oh, yeah. I used to say to him, I wish I had you wide, because wow, he could put it on a sixpence. Really could.
I know. Do you know what? A true story. Will Frostron, part of his training was to actually write down how many times Dad stopped when he was playing.
Right.
He said he couldn't even put anything. That was part
incredible.
Of it.
He didn't stop. That's what my dad said. He didn't stop.
Yeah.
He did
run all day.
He was just, and even in training, wasn't it? I mean, they said that when you must have found it, Kev, when he was training, he would take you on. He wanted to beat you.
All the time.
He had that winning streak all the way, and he had to win. I know that they said when he used to do cross country at Coney, and he'd take you through all the brambles and the stuff.
Oh yeah. It was a long one. Listen, with Geordie, anytime we would do a cross country, there was a short one and a long one. Anytime Geordie's leading, we know we're going on the long one. Trust me, we're going on the long.
Jill, can I ask you this? Because by the way, I found the picture of you, Kev.
Yeah.
That you and Jill were talking about.
Yes.
Just a brilliant picture there, and I wanted to show this picture. I mean, this is such a phenomenal shot. And Jill, Kev talks about your dad, and everyone that you listen to, speak to, converse with, they just rave about the man that he was. What did he think of players like Tony and Kev and Righty? Did he used to talk about them as much as they talk about him?
Yeah, Dad would spend, I would say majority of his time, he would be in his office, and he was never off the phone. And, he would be talking to, he had a great love for all the players, anyone, but particularly people that, like Kevin and Tony Adams, all of them, it's hard to, pinpoint. He had a great love for anyone that had the passion for the club. But I mean, I kind of remember more like people, like he would be on the phone a lot to Ashley Cole. He was his player from 9 years old. He trained with Dad.
Wow.
Dad was a bit of a, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but a bit of a mentor to him in those days. He would be on this phone constantly, and Dad fought quite strongly to get Ashley in the first team. Because, at that time he felt he was ready, and he would go to Arsenal. Kevin, if he believed in somebody, he would fight for them.
100%.
If somebody gave him 100%, he would return the favour. And if you left the club, it didn't mean that. I mean, I know you're still in touch with Michael Thomas when he left Liverpool. He would do that. You know, that was Dad. He was there for, I don't know, he kind of like, I suppose in a way, he's quite a father figure to many people, but a mentor as well.
The connection, Jill, the connection.
He never ever would say somebody was his favourite. He would never say, oh, he's the best. He wouldn't do that. Everybody had something that he liked. He wouldn't, I'm not saying he would say, oh, he's a great player or he's a great player, but he would have many people that he thought a lot of. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't that kind of man. It's hard to put across, but you know, he was there. If anybody gave 100%, he was, you know, behind them, and you know, he would give them everything. We used to get annoyed. We never really saw him. He was always helping somebody in football. You know, he had time for them. He would be going to matches. He was just, and I think that hit hard when he died, because you know, obviously the players were on the pitch when he died. Technically speaking, at Coney, and I know that was hard. I mean, I've spoken to Stephen Sidwell as well, and he, you know, he was one of Dad's players on the day, and it was all everybody knew, but we won't go into that. But you know, what I'm trying to say is he was always there for everybody. You know,
I think that's what makes pictures like this so cool, Jill, because the generational. I mean, when you look at this picture with this team, this squad, this side, and then you know you see pictures of him like this. And pictures of him like this, and how he spanned the ages, and he was still involved in the club at this age. I mean, it's such a unique story, and just a totally insanely amazing career to have spanned so many generations.
He from Arsenal. He's in Kuwait. He won the Gulf Cup with the national team. You know, he's also achieved
successful.
Yeah. But again, he would never talk about that. I mean, obviously, his main love was Arsenal always, but he was, you know, very passionate about football. Football was his life; it was our life, and the Arsenal, you know. You know, I think what comes across as well is he could do what he asked people to do. You know, I remember him saying sometimes he'd come home, he'd say, "Oh, the lads were pulling me, you know, oh, you bet you can't do that now, Geordie." He's like, "Watch," and he goes, "Oh, you know that he could deliver it, couldn't he?"
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
He would never ask you to do something. He'd never ask you to do something that he couldn't do, and that's a sign of a good man. Do you know what I mean?
Jill, one of our listeners, Mark, wanted to know if your dad had any pre-game superstitions.
Not what I'm aware of, no.
Right.
Not at all.
Well, that answers that then.
Yeah, no, literally no. I mean, he would, you know, he would get obviously a bit kind of like, I mean, again, I'm going back a long time. I remember he'd get quite tense probably before the game.
Anxious.
Yeah. But the worst thing is if he lost. I mean, I don't remember so much. We were probably in bed, probably sat in bed early.
Yeah.
But Mum always said, you know, he just didn't like it. He wouldn't talk. He hated losing. He was just like that. You know, like I said, he always wanted to win, and that was his. You know, he had that kind of winner mentality. As long as you went out and performed your best that you could, but he never kind of. I mean, what comes across is when you talk to Frank or Bob or any of them, they'll always say, they'd say, "Geordie, you had a great game." He was like, "Yeah, it was all right. I was all right." He never kind of said that, you know, gave himself any credit, if you know what I mean.
Well, legends loved him too. I mean, look at this picture of him with Johan Cruyff. Where's this, Jill? What's happening here?
That was after his in 1974 when his testimonial. He presented Johan with some goblets to, you know, thank him for coming to his testimonial, well, playing in his testimonial. Johan gave him a solid gold key ring of Barcelona Stadium, which is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So no, that, and apparently that was amazing as well, I believe. Again, I didn't go, so
yeah.
Wow.
Those days, I suppose we were told we had to stay. I don't know,
What?
go to bed. Oh, your grandmother's looking after
Or you got school in the morning,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. My life is a bit too normal. This is
What's happening here?
Yeah, this is Liam in my next door neighbour's. Well, I say she was like my grandmother. House. He was in digs there with Will Frostron.
Right.
I just love him to bits. He's been so, I've known him and
Lovely man.
Hereford.
Lovely man.
Yeah, he is. And he's just, I don't know. I've just got so many happy memories growing up, with him. And because that's kind of like the Arsenal, sadly, like I say, I was a bit young for the double. But I remember the times of Frank Stapleton, Liam, Graham Ricks, David O'Leary. That was, the kind of mid to latter 70s, just before Dad left. My memories more then.
The FA Cups, the FA Cup games and all that. Yeah.
And also, my memories are really strong with things that we did at Highbury. I remember Dad going to see Fred Street, the physio.
Yeah.
And literally we were swimming in the bath.
The big bar.
Bath. I mean, how amazing is that? I remember running out on the pitch and, that all that part of Highbury is just such a great thing. I love that. And, I couldn't go down there before they, I just couldn't go down there. I went back there a couple of years ago and, I found it so hard.
Yeah.
Because, it was part of my life as well. I grew up there my mum started going when she was pregnant with me. And I went from a baby. She said she used to bounce me on her knee watching the game because my grandparents were all up north. So the only way she could watch Dad.
Yeah.
So we were used to going, armed apparently with colouring books, which we'll discuss a lot of Arsenal games.
But did you enjoy it though, Jill, watching the game? Was you into football?
My normal, it's so weird. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to watch my dad at work, it was like, and the pride was always there, you were so proud of him even then.
Yeah.
It's very hard to explain. It's just, just being, I don't know, it was like you felt when he walked in the room, you lit up when you saw him. It was just such a sense of love and it was a nice one though. It's like sometimes when people are saying to me on here, oh, you're showing off. No, I'm not. I loved him, and I want to remember him, and I want, and I think it's important. Dennis Bergkamp said to me that he is part of the fabric that built this club.
100%.
No doubt.
I love that, Dennis Bergkamp.
100%. He's spot on. He is.
Yeah. And you know what? Dennis used to, Dad got, Dennis, I mean, Dad said that he used to say, Geordie, is anybody you don't know? Him and Kevin, he knew everyone from
He knew everyone.
Every club, Sorry.
No, Jill, this is fantastic. What did he think of Mr. Wenger?
Loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. They had a lot of, things they could talk about. They were both experienced of working abroad. They had similar view. I mean, Dad was very old school, but Arsene, really had that respect. I mean, he loved anyone that was passionate about the club. He loved what Dad was about. I mean, I don't know if you saw what he wrote when Dad died. It was a lovely tribute.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something. It's been hard, obviously, during COVID, but we go down there, to Coney, and we put flowers down on Dad's anniversary because when you actually think about it, he did actually effectively die there on the pitch. I mean, though he wasn't declared dead till later, but obviously he did die there. Arsene would come over when we took the flowers over, often with Pat when Pat was still there, and he would talk about Dad, and he would say, we would talk about funny stories and Dad and his jokes, which were dreadful, and certain things. And you know what, my mum, right, bless her, her life just, you can imagine somebody that you've loved and you followed around and been part of your life to just go to work and die. He just he died. He rang her from lunch to say he was coming home later that day, and the next phone call you get, he's dead. You know, it's very hard to comprehend, especially when Kevin will understand how, you know, how fit Dad was.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
everybody was in shock, you know. But what I'm trying to get at is Arsene would listen over and over again to the same stories that my mum would tell year after year. And he would smile and he would put his heart shut. And you know what? That man, I'll tell you what, I adore him because he gave us so much time. He looked interested. He listened. And, you know, he doesn't have to do that after, 18 years. He always made time for us. And he'd come and sit. He was never in a rush. You know, he would never rush off. He would listen. He would talk about something. They always said the same, that just before Dad died, he was ready to pick him for the Worthington Cup because he said he thought he was fitter than most of the players. You know, effectively, I think it was from David Cork that actually when Dad collapsed, Arsene was the one who took his boots off. So they were all with him. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's choke me up. Wow. Yeah. It's almost heroic though. Feels like Gladiator, you know. It just feels so poetic in a sense that, you know, something so crushing and so sudden and so sad, but yet so heroic and so apt in a sense, Jill. Did that give you guys comfort knowing that?
Oh yeah. You know, obviously when they did the memorial stone for Dad and named the pitch, it was an amazing event. You know, I mean, the Hillwoods, you know, opened it, David Dean and the ball.
Did we lose Jill for a minute?
Yeah, I think the internet's gone a little bit funky.
She did say that she has dodgy internet because she's in the
it happens sometimes. So
yeah, it's been fantastic so far. It's been
absolutely
brilliant.
You know what?
Are you choking up, Kev?
Yeah, man. It's
your memories as well, isn't it?
But to know, as you rightly said, Sophie, for him to go there, for him to die virtually at the training ground, at Arsenal's training ground, there is a gladiatorial feel to it. And, you know, it just brings me back to the memories where I shared with him at Colney. There was a lot, you know, there was a lot of memories. And what I said it so many times, I'm so blessed to have shared memories with these guys. You know, what is amazing people. Arsenal, we are so lucky as Arsenal fans, I tell you.
Talk about the art of keeping good company, Kev. You know, I mean, we all say in life we want to surround ourselves and be around really good people, positive people, people that elevate you, you know, people that inspire you. And he's definitely someone, you know, that has done that throughout the history of Arsenal Football Club. I mean, a lot of these players, this was, I think, after 25 years of winning the double, I believe, this picture.
Brilliant.
You know, just superb stuff, incredible,
just pure class.
Really. And I think that's why a lot of people, especially our generation, right, PG, get when people say, oh, you know, if you're too emotional about what's happening with the club right now and stuff like that, it's because of this history.
Yeah, it is.
It's because of these stories, these men who played, the women who are around them to allow them to do that, families, like proper stuff. Kev, you lived and breathed it yourself as well. Yay, guess who's back? Yay.
We live in the middle of nowhere.
I know, I told them, don't worry.
Wind up, Jobby.
Wind it up. Put the penny in the meter.
Kick every so often, you know.
No, you were saying how it gave you guys comfort, you know. That's where we lost you, and I think your stories are helping. There's a lot. We have some younger listeners too, and Giannis, one of our listeners, said, "I was born in, I can't remember what year it was." PG,
70,
do you remember?
1970.
And
said,
90, 91. And he's like, "This is amazing because." You know, they get to hear it from people like you that really lived it as opposed to reading about it in a book, you know?
Yeah.
And you know what? You know, when you put the pictures to what Jill's saying, it all ties in. You know, for somebody who doesn't understand the history, to actually hear Jill lived it, Jill was there. my dad was a superstar at Arsenal, but he was dad to me. That is special, really is.
Yeah, there was only certain times that you felt like I said, my brother would actually go up and kiss the TV on when Dad was on like the big match or something.
Yeah.
But you know, in them days in the 70s, it wasn't a lot, was it? It was match of the day, and I mean, I think Dad was on the first match of the day ever. So I think Arsenal, yeah. And funny little things like that, you know, that he I think he was I don't think he was booked. What was it? I don't know if he had the first ever booking or something. I have to check that. Do you know what? Honestly, some of my don't take much notice of my actual sort of knowledge on things like that, because you forget when you've lived it. It's harder to recall, if you know what I mean. Your dad. I mean, I remember when Dave was doing the book, he'd say to me, "Well, you must remember what year it was." I'm like, "Well, I didn't, because it was your life. You didn't kind of note it." I wish, honestly, I had listened and recorded my dad. The stories he had about Shankly and, oh, do you know what? Unbelievable, you know, because he was in
Kick it, Jill.
Yeah.
Oh, I was looking forward to that story.
Me too.
Put more money. Put more money. Here we go.
Right, say it again. About
No.
Shankly. We lost you at Shankly.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Oh, do you know what? I'll have to double check all this now, because but I'm sure it's something to do with one of the players went down the tunnel and they were saying, oh, they can't even afford a better sign at Anfield or something. You know where they've got "We'll never" whatever.
Welcome to Anfield.
This is Anfield.
Yeah.
Like, read the words. This is, you know, and Dad kind of could go into it more. Like I'm saying, I remember bits, and you know, I used to hear it all the time, and I don't think I always took everything in, because it was just my normal life. It's I don't know how to put it across. I mean, certain things you do remember, but you know, Dad always had a way of making everything very humorous. I mean, he you know, he'd always have a joke. I don't know if you remember. I mean, I don't know.
Sense of humor was brilliant.
Yeah,
Sense of humor was brilliant. I think what people have to understand as well, Jill, is obviously your dad's. You're a daughter of a superstar footballer, but you also got your own life. You got your school life and all that to go. So that's why things just don't flow. You know, people must realize that.
This is what's really weird, because I have never ever done anything in my life under my dad's name apart from Twitter. My work, my career, nobody knew who my dad was, because I was so determined that I didn't want anyone to give me special treatment or that I would get there. I had to do things on my own, And Twitter was a really eye-opener to me. A lot of very positive things, also negative ones.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to go on there as somebody's daughter when they're so well known, because you're like, you know, I'm a person too, you know.
You get judged, Jill.
Yeah.
You get judged on there. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, don't get me wrong. The amazing people that I've met, and some of the stories. I mean, some guy told me his goldfish. He named his goldfish after that.
I bet he could cross it. I bet he could cross it as well. God.
Yeah.
I was going to touch on that, because you and I talk about this so much, about sort of the vitriol you get, and no one in their right mind can understand why. I just, for a start, don't get it anyway, that anyone abuses anyone, but the fact that your dad is an Arsenal legend, I don't get it. And I know you have so many amazing followers, us included, that will always stand for you anyway.
Yeah.
But how does it make you feel as his daughter first?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's very hard, because initially I used to really, I found it so hard. I was coming off it every other week. I couldn't deal with it. And I think the problem is, once you respond, then you get a lot of others who are like-minded.
Jumping on.
Yep.
And it's really hard. But the thing is, you can take insults more. I could deal with more insults to me than I can about my dad. And my dad is like, I want to cover them, you know, because it's my dad. You know? And he can't defend himself. I mean, he would have said to me, just come off it. Don't, you know, he would. But the thing is, when you get stories like people saying to you, I look forward to your pictures, it reminds me of happy times I went with my dad or my uncle or my grandfather, then you just think, you know what, that's doing something good. And my dad would like that. He would say, you know what, that's something nice, you know. But yeah, I mean, some of them, and you know, sometimes it's more privately done. I mean, I don't ever expose or come out and say stuff, but it is hurtful. I mean, last year during lockdown, I was getting a lot, and I was waking up and I was getting messages, and I literally was really affecting my mental health. I've never.
But saying what? I mean, what are that?
Well, I read quite a few of them. I don't think she needs to repeat it. The thing is that people like us and so many, there are a lot of people that were just not having it and backing you up. And
I mean,
she gets amazing support.
People won't do it out on the front, because also, I mean, it's so funny. I said this to my mum. You know, when somebody said something and I quote it and I go, really? And then everyone jumps in, and then I actually end up feeling sorry for the person.
Yep, I've been there before. I know what you mean.
Can we say hello to Marge?
To Mum. Yeah, she's in the other room.
Yeah, please say hello from us.
Yeah.
Hello, Marge.
Hello, Marge.
Oh, Marge.
You're a rock star too, for sure. What an amazing daughter you have. Just wonderful stories, Jill, and brilliant stuff. Listen, before we let you go, we do have to ask you a few questions about the modern day Arsenal, because a lot of our listeners who are just loving this would love your take on what you think's happening at the Arsenal. And, you know, all of us here just try to get behind the club, support the club. I know that you do too. But what's your take on what's happening in modern day football?
You know, it's just so different from, you know, the football I know. I mean, it's such a difficult thing for me to get involved in. I mean, I would always support. I'm not saying you always agree with everything, but my dad was always of the sort that you support the manager, you know, go, you know, and that's what I would do, because I don't know, I'm just not comfortable sometimes talking about this, because I just line myself up for more criticism. I'm happy.
You won't get criticism here, Jill. Not from our lot. It's not like Twitter.
No, she's talking about the press maybe picking it up or something.
Oh, right.
You know, Geordie Armstrong's daughter said.
Do you know what? Honestly, it is, because it's very difficult. Because I mean, I don't. I can hear that. Sorry.
That's okay. Your mum's getting a lot of love from our chat right now. I'm putting all the hellos up there for her.
Yeah. It's just so difficult. I'm not a person that wants to get involved in that side of it.
No.
I want to remember my dad. I get enough abuse for just putting pictures of my dad. So for me to actually get on and start saying what I feel about Arsenal, it's not something I'm comfortable doing, you know. And also, you know, I don't know. You
still love the club. You watch them. You watch the games. You support the Arsenal. Yeah,
we go. Definitely not as often as we'd like to. It's totally different now as it was. I mean, the thing is, you think we come from the days where my mum and dad knew Ken Fryer as an office boy, and I mean, came, you know, lifetime. I think he's president now, isn't he? Still, my Arsenal's different. Yeah, I love going to the club. We get invited into the box. We see Liam, we see Pat, we see Bob. I see people that I grew up with all my life. That's my Arsenal. Yeah. But I will always love the club. I will always support them. And we've been fortunate. We go to Coney prior to COVID. The kids get to meet the players. And you know what? Some of them have been, I mean, Santi Cazorla, oh, what a lovely man. You know, he was aware of Dad, and, you know, a lot of them do. We met I think under 21s. Is it Greg Lincoln that trains them? Is it? Didn't he used to be one of the players?
Sorry? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you froze. Yeah.
You know, we went down and we saw the players. They all came and they were playing on Dad's pitch. And Sean, who runs Coney, said they'd like to meet the family of Geordie, because we are showing them the Arsenal way. These are the Hale End boys, yeah?
100%.
One of them shook hands with us. every single one, and said, I'm so pleased to meet you. Yeah. And you know, they're amazing. I love Saka. I do. I really do. I think he's amazing. And I think he's perfect person to have the number 7. You know, I really do. And I've got a great love, you know, for the team. And like I say, we're still connected, probably not as much, you know, because you think my dad was there every day. He was part of developing the players, preparing them for the first team, or getting, you know, first team players that were injured or whatever, or, you know, getting back into it. So, you know, we've always been part of it. You know, I remember the days before he died, we would be all, you know, because, you know, we knew everybody of that team. It was smaller, wasn't it? It was a smaller, more family, you know, Highbury. So it's very different. It's very different for everybody, you know.
Jill, if you have a favourite memory of Dad playing, what is it?
I think the West Ham game where they won 6-1. I think, what was it, 75? They Brian Kidd got a hat trick, Alan Ball scored, and Dad scored. And somebody else.
Somebody else.
We don't know because we're too young on here, but my dad would know exactly who he was.
54 now. Jesus.
Mars Gunner says
Looking
75.
good. Yeah, 75, Mars Gunner says, yeah. I mean, this is amazing. Everyone's just loving these stories, and you sharing your family photos with us too. Just really incredible stuff. Really
special.
I mean, this has been such a wonderful time, you know.
Wow, an hour's gone already. Look at that, Jill.
Wow, thanks for your time, Jill. Honestly, thanks for your time. Because I know we know it's not easy. We know it's not easy.
Yeah, it's quite, I mean, it's quite hard sometimes talking about Dad. It can get quite emotional. You know, even though it's 20 years on, you know, it's still, you've got the shock of the way he died. It wasn't something you were, you know, prepared for. You had no idea. But yeah, but you know, this helps, you know, because it's lovely to remember him and know that the lovely stories that people say. I mean, I don't know if I've got time to quickly tell you a story about the 70 during the double year.
You certainly do.
Sure.
A guy contacted me recently. I think.
No,
no way.
Not now. Come on, kick
Come
it.
back,
Put the
Jill,
penny
come
in.
on.
Put the penny in the meter.
I'll kick it.
Good. Right. 71 story.
Anyway, I'll speed it up. Charlie said it's over there. He couldn't find it. He saw Dad in the car with Peter Storey. Dad was getting in his Jag. And he said, where do I go? Dad got out of the car, went in, got him a ticket and signed it and gave it to him. And he said, my God, that was it for me. He said, your dad gave me a ticket and he signed it.
Oh,
That was Dad, though. He went in and got the ticket. And I heard another story where a guy was unloading, I don't know, papers or something, newspapers or whatever at Highbury. Dad jumped in and started offloading the van with him. He said afterwards, I thought, bloody hell, that's George Armstrong. Just a few little stories. You know,
I bet so many people have got so many wonderful stories about your dad. My dad probably has.
Yeah, well, when Dave did the book, he said to me, I was actually getting to the point where I was saying, can we have somebody that didn't like him? But he said he was just all so nice, you know, and that was him. And he seems too perfect to be true, really. But, you know, that was just him, you know. He was...
Well, Jill, I could honestly say, in all my dealings with Geordie, and we never once had a crossword.
Oh.
And everybody who was in and around him that I know could only speak to the highest order of your dad.
No.
So that's as big a compliment as I could pay him. He really was not only a legend on the pitch, he was a legend off the pitch. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful man.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah. We cannot thank you. Finally, we made this happen. It's been a little time in the making. We so appreciate you coming on and sharing your dad's stories with us. It's just brilliant stuff. And the squaddies, as we like to call them, Jill, have loved every minute. Some fantastic comments calling you a legend, just like your dad. Thanking you for sharing your family photos. and all of the anecdotes as well. Just been really beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank
you, Jill.
Inviting me on.
Jill, have a lovely evening and a lovely weekend, my dear.
Thank you and everyone else.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Jill.
Bye, Jill.
Bye. Wow.
Listen, we told
So
you,
lovely.
don't say we don't do nice things for you, squaddies. I mean, that was unbelievable. This has been one of the best shows ever.
And I didn't want to say it when she was on air, but when I've been messaging her this week, she's been so nervous. And I kept saying, the squaddies are going to love you. We're going to look after you. Been doing it for a couple of weeks to try and calm. And I think she's really enjoyed it. And I think the squaddies have loved it.
Yeah, they have. I'm trying to put in as many comments right now with everyone.
Do you know what? I've got to say, thank you to the squaddies as well, because
they were class tonight, weren't they, Kev?
No, but without them, we can't do this.
No,
I said that same thing to them last night when Anu was on.
Yeah. Without them, we can't do this. We can't get the caliber of guest on to open up without having good squaddies, good people following us.
We've got the best followers, haven't we?
I tell you, this week we've really tried to, there's not a lot to be positive about. We talked about this a lot. So we tried to find silver linings in a terrible and dark season, not only for our club, but for football, the world. Then you top it off with the Super League and then owners and protests and all this type of stuff. And to end it with her, we've had Demian on, we had Anu, we had Mike from My Arsenal, we had James, really just trying to, even though we may disagree or agree, whether you're Arteta in or Arteta out, any of that stuff, it was all about, this is what we have and we've got to move forward and find a way to find those silver linings. Doesn't mean that you have to agree on everything and anything or change your perception, but let's try and find a way to move forward and, find some positivity in all of this. And tonight was just a brilliant way to top it all off. It was just fantastic. Really good stuff.
I totally agree.
Well, next week we have some great shows lined up. I'm not going to say anything, but we've got 2 stellar shows lined up. We also have Elliot from Arsenal Vision podcast, Yankee Gunner, on next week. We have quite a special show lined up for Thursday, which we will reveal over the weekend with a very good friend of ours from another Arsenal podcast. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Kevin will be back with Kevin Says. And that's when we might twist Positive Week into all the crap you guys say on YouTube to Kev after an episode.
No, just like anything, we've had a week of positivity. Let's get real.
Well, we've got a game next week, haven't we? Don't we play?
We do.
We've got Crystal Palace next Wednesday night.
Yes, we do.
And then it's the end of the season on Sunday. And guess who's going back to the Emirates?
Nice. Well done.
Got a ticket. I'm going back, but I don't think I'm sitting in my seat though. I don't know where I'm sitting.
It doesn't matter. You're going back.
You're going
I
back.
know. It's so weird. I could be anywhere in that ground. I don't know yet. But yes, I'm going back.
That is great news. Brilliant stuff. So that will be good. So you'll get to tune in post-game from the game.
Yeah, from the game.
Well, we're going to need a live video, please.
Oh, God. Don't start that.
Coming in from the Emirates is PG.
If there's any squaddies going, they need to tell me. So maybe we can meet up and I'll put them on the show.
That would be fantastic. That would be brilliant. Really good stuff. So next week is back to reality week. Then is what Casey said.
Yeah, back to reality. I mean, look,
you never know. We might beat Palace on Wednesday night.
And by the way, there's still a bit of positivity that happened this week. So let's wait for Kev Says.
Oh, okay. I know where you're going with this. I might know where you're going with this. Okay. All right, cool. This is brilliant. Listen, there's no show this weekend. There's no Arsenal, but we will be back for Monday Madness. Kevin Says, Elliot from Arsenal Vision, special show on Thursday. And then Friday is your show as per usual. You guys rock, as Kev said, as PG said, and as I've said to you all week. There is no Highbury Squad without you. Let's hope Shay did a good job. Hopefully one of our squaddies won the Tony Adams centenary shirt. There'll be another shirt coming from our good friends at Football Prizes next week as well. So watch out for that. Anything else you want to say, Kev, Amanda, before we depart?
Go on, Kev.
I've said my bit about the squaddies. They've been absolutely first class. And thank you so much for following, because without you, you can't do it. Yeah.
And Amanda, we had a few people do the Always Arsenal that exit. I'm going to say there were a couple piss poor attempts, as positive as the week was. I'm going to say something. It's not negative. It's just funny.
Just leave it to the,
the expert.
I would just like to say a few things as well. I haven't been on a week for personal reasons and other reasons, but the messages I've received talking about how lovely our squaddies are, I'm perfectly fine. Thank you very much for all messaging me. I've not left. I'm still here. But well done for following Sophie with all her little co-hosts, which looked fantastic. That's what we love about this show, that we can bring you all on as well. So thank you for caring. I'm going back to the Emirates, and I keep telling everyone I'm going back. God knows what it's going to be like. 10,000 of us, but I will be singing. And the one thing I was thinking of was, will I remember any of the songs? We've not been for over a year. I was only thinking that before. Will I remember the songs? But anyway, listen. Thanks to everyone for supporting Sophie this week.
Brilliant. Sophie always does a brilliant job. Thank you. Brilliant shows. Everyone's raved about them. So well done, Soph. Enjoy your weekend. There's no football to get stressed about. Let's just hope Tottenham lose and we have a really little bit of fun at the end of the season. Hey, by the way, 1 point behind them.
I know, but they've got a game in hand. Not yet. Do not sing yet. If we do, we'll do a whole show where we sing it. No, she's already sung it now.
It's positive week. Let me have it.
I'm not used to you being positive, so carry on. Bring it on. Right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy your weekend. But always Arsenal. Always Arsenal.